Makeyev was stripped of his rank and banned from working for the state for 3 years as part of his sentence, Interfax news agency reports. Military officials have denied Makeyev allegations which center on the claim that the dog food was relabeled as ordinary tinned meat and supplied to his garrison. In one video, he shows large warehouse of cardboard boxes appearing to contain tinned food. At one point, he holds a tin marked beef. Under the torn label can be seen a different one, which he says is dog food. The major accused his military superiors of allowing theft and corruption to flourish in his garrison. Military officials in the region confirmed that some abuses had taken place but said they had been dealt with before Makeyev posted his videos. In court, the regional commander of interior troops, Viktor Strigunov, denied any soldiers had been fed dog food. An attempt by Makeyev's unit to sue him in civilian court was rejected. Lacoste brand seeking Anders Breivik clothes ban. Lacoste has reportedly asked Norwegian police to prevent mass killer Anders Breivik wearing the brand in court. The French clothing label wrote to Norway's police authorities to make the request, Dagbladet newspaper reports. Far-right extremist Breivik has admitted killing 77 people during bomb and gun attacks in July. Breivik, who has reportedly said Lacoste is his favorite brand, has been pictured wearing the label since his arrest. Lacoste has not yet commented on the reports that they are worried by the association with their brand. On his way to be questioned over the killings, Breivik was pictured wearing a red Lacoste jumper. In addition, he was wearing a black Lacoste sweater in other publicly available images. According to Dagbladet, police prosecutor Christian Halter has confirmed that Lacoste has contacted the police. Yes, we have been contacted by Lacoste, but what they have asked remains between us, Mr. Halter's reporter is telling the newspaper. The move by his clothing company follows that US brand Abercrombie and Fitch, which offered to pay the runway hard partying cast of MTV reality show not to wear its clothes. It said their association with the clothing was contrary to the aspirational nature of its brand and might be distressing to the brand's fans. It singled out one cast member's penchant for the label as particularly damaging and said it had also offered money to MTV producers to encourage the cast to wear different brands. Syria unrest, dead soldiers buried, officials say. Syria's official news agency has reported that 11 soldiers killed by armed groups have been buried in various cities throughout the country. The government says hundreds of its personnel have been killed since anti-government protests began. More than 2,200 civilians have died, the UN says. Opposition activists are preparing to protest after prayers on Friday, which has become a regular day of protest. There are already reports of protests in Damascus and oil port of Deir Azur. Demonstrations demanding that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad step down began almost 6 months ago, and the government has often used violence to attempt to quell the unrest. According to the state news agency, the soldiers were buried included 2 colonels who were laid to rest wrapped in Syrian flags. The news agency also reported the alleged confessions of 2 men who reportedly said they had tried to plant a bomb in a roadside rubbish container in the coastal city of Lataka. Amitabh Bachchan to make Hollywood debut. Bollywood legend Amitabh Bachchan is making his Hollywood debut in a new film adaptation of The Great Gatsby starring Leonardo DiCaprio, according to producer Warner Brothers. Bachchan will play Mayor Wolfsheim, a Jewish man described as a gambler in F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic novel. The $126 million film, directed by Baz Luhrmann, has begun shooting in Australia. The Great Gatsby is a story of 1920s high society in the US, the golden age of excess before the Depression. Luhrmann said he was personally thrilled that one of the world's greatest screen legends, Amitabh Bachchan, is joining the cast. Over the years, Amitabh Bachchan films have made a tremendous impression on my life and work. His film Sholay was my introduction to Indian cinema, Luhrmann told Indo-Asia News Service in email interview. Luhrmann has spoken about his love for Bollywood movies in the past and used a popular Bollywood song in his 2001 musical Moulin Rouge. Bachchan has acted in more than 180 Indian films over a 40-year period. He remains India's most popular actor. He recently returned as a celebrity host of Kaun Banega Crorepati, the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and one of the most watched shows on Indian television. He was voted the greatest star of the millennium in a 1999 BBC poll. Bachchan acts in several films every year and was last seen in Teen Party, Three Cards, in January, which he starred alongside British veteran Ben. Air India fleet expansion a recipe for disaster. Indian government auditors have criticized the aviation ministry over its decision to buy 111 planes from the national airline Air India. In a report submitted to the Parliament on Thursday, the auditors said 2005 decision was a recipe for disaster. The Comptroller and Auditor General, CAG, also said the decision to merge the domestic and international sections of the airline was ill-timed. Air India has been losing millions of dollars in recent years. The ailing state-run airline wants government money to help turn its fortunes around. Former Civil Aviation Minister Praful Patel said the decision was taken by the government to make the airline commercially viable. Indian sailors dead after a ship blast in Nigeria. The bodies of 3 Indian crew members who went missing after an explosion on a cargo ship off Lagos in Nigeria have been recovered, Nigerian officials say. The blast on MT Jacksonville carrying 15 Indian crew occurred on Sunday. 10 crew members were rescued immediately. The bodies of the dead were recovered on Thursday and 2 others are still missing. The ship's origin and destination were not immediately clear.
கப்பல் படையாலே மீட்கப்பட்ட மாரிமுத்து என்பவரால் எங்கள் உறவினருக்கு தெரிவிக்கப்பட்டிருக்கின்றது. ஆகவே இந்த நேரத்தில் இறந்த அந்த 5 எங்கள் சீமன்களையும் உடனடியாக தாயத்துக்கு கொண்டு வந்து சேர்க்க வேண்டும்.
Lamit Tumka, spokeswoman for the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, said that the crew were undertaking repair work on a vessel when there was a big explosion in the engine room and fire broke out. The 10 crew members who were rescued on Sunday were treated for different levels of burns and released, she told AFP news agency. It's not clear what caused the explosion on the ship. We'll move on to the business world. IMF Christine Lagarde urges global action as G7 meet. International Monetary Fund Chief Christine Lagarde has urged bold action on faltering world economy ahead of meeting the G7 group of leading economists. The G7 is meeting in Marseille to consider a coordinated response. The 2-day meeting comes as our Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development predicted a global showdown this year. Europe is also struggling with a sovereign debt crisis. The key message I wish to convey today is that countries must act now and act boldly to set their economies through this dangerous new phase of the recovery, Ms. Lagarde said in London before flying to a G7 meeting. She also praised President Barack Obama's new $450 billion jobs plan to try to boost the world's largest economy. All this is happening at a time when the scope for policy action is considerably narrower than when the crisis first reported. She said, but while the policy options may be fewer, there is a path to recovery. Welcome to the world of science. UK joins laser nuclear fusion project. The UK has formally joined forces with the US laser lab in a bid to develop clean energy from nuclear fusion. Unlike fission plants, the process uses lasers to compress atomic nuclei until they join, releasing energy. The National Ignition Facility, NIF, in the US is drawing closer to producing a surplus of energy from this idea. The UK company AWE and the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory have now joined with NIF to help make laser fusion a viable commercial energy source. And in sports, open skies, bouncing balls, tough critiques. Don't let the obstacles beat you. It's always been the way to the United States Open. From the stench of burning meat wafting across the court, to the rumble of garbage bins, to the rattle of the railroad train, to say nothing of the weather. The Open is an endurance race, the survival of the fittest. Bjorn Borg never won it, and Kevin Curran suggested the place to be blown up by an atomic bomb. More than one European clay court specialist has fallen to set down in the din and bustle, and you could see them mentally speculating if they could catch the evening flight back to the continent. The best players in the world wonder if they are not only dueling a respected opponent and forces of nature, but also the crass purpose of the management. The star male player more or less shamed officials into extending the weather-plagued Open to Monday, rather than forcing them to play 4 consecutive days. And now, before we close today's bulletin of news analysis, let's have a recap of the main points. Libya conflict clashes ahead of surrender deadline. Delhi bomb, Indian group may be behind court attack. 9/11, Clinton says Al-Qaeda behind New York threat. German court upholds Apple design claim. Russian army dogfoot whistleblower Makeyev jailed. Lacoste brand seeking Anders Breivik close ban. And there we end today's bulletin of news analysis. Be with us in the coming weeks too. Thank you.